Well, first you need to check. So like right now, you need to be looking at here. And you see the first Chronoboost, which is good. You see the warp gate skip, which is also what you want to see. So yeah, you can send the one link across the map right now. And now you should be checking, yeah. You need to check if there's a second Chronoboost or not. So we see that it's used the second Chronoboost. If there's a second Chronoboost, this Zergling can usually never get in if they did their build order correctly. But if they messed up, maybe there's a small chance to get in. But in general, we only try to send this Zergling in if there was no second Chronoboost. So then it can get in before this unit pops. If there's a second Chronoboost, we put the Zergling here and we wait. If we see that it's on a second adept and the second adept goes across the map, then you can send the Zergling in. But in this case, just keep it at the third when we see two Chronoboosts. Second Queen. A little bit late on the Overlord here, but it's fine because our Thrasher is gonna finish. But in general, we want to try to make this Overlord on like 39 supply. Something like that. Overlord positioning could be a bit better. So, in general, like what you want to consider in CVP is you want to take the gas that's away from the edge of your base. So, in this case, you would take this gas, and then you would have the spore like here, because the Oracle will have a much easier time poking at your gas right here than right here. Because if it goes from this angle and tries to poke at this gas, then the Queen from the natural can shoot it, the Queen from the main can shoot it, and there's a spore here. So that's something to consider. Same here, you would probably put your spore like right here, because if it comes from this angle, then it means it's gonna be semi-trapped, right? Because you're gonna have a queen over here somewhere, you're gonna have a queen here. So we want to put the spores towards the most exposed places, and preferably take our gases away from the exposed places. Yeah, normally you would send your Overlord straight here on this map, because they can put an adept here to see your Overlord if it's up here. So normally we go here, we check for the first gateway unit, and then we go here. So you can't really scout properly on this map, because you're not allowed to have your Overlord here. But
Queen birth. Newly birthed evolution complete.
which one? You see the late third. So when you see the third at this timing, there can only really be three things. It can be an adept timing, it can be 2 Stargate, it can be an Archon drop. Those are the 3 things you need to think about. And in general, you just want to spread Zerglings like you're doing. This is good. Check for the move out. And there you see the prison, so you know you need to make roaches. Overall, our drone count is a bit low. Definitely too low to go up to 4 gas. So here we're kind of, the supply block here kind of hurt us a bit. Quite a bit actually, because we want to be droning right now really hard. So the supply block was a mistake for sure. But in general, you did a good job with the Zerglings. You saw everything. But yeah, in general, you need to drone super heavily when these overlords finish. And you also need to make roaches fairly soon. And since you have these extra Zerglings here, I guess you saw the adept move out, so it's kind of good to keep them around. But you can try to fish around a bit to force him to like cancel the Templar Warper and stuff like that. So like right here. But in general, if you saw these adepts, you need to have the links in position for that, so that's also fine. Yeah. We also want to morph an Overseer right away with our queens here, just so he's gonna bring an observer over and use the observer plus Archon drop to clear creep. So we want to have an overseer with our queen so we can chase the observer away and protect our creep. Also sending an overseer across the map to see if he is like exploding with gateways or starting storm, stuff like that is useful. Okay, we're playing Ravaging Bane. Yeah, everything looks okay so far. I would say in general, just like we would like to hit our drone count a little bit earlier. Get our fourth up a little faster, a little bit faster saturation on the third base. We're getting a Spire. And yeah, we need to make sure we respread Zerglings here so we have vision if he moves out. Because it's very common for them to do like a follow-up charge slot Archon timing after they open Archon drop. So we want to make sure we have vision so we can reactively make more roaches if we need to.
Swarm has evolved.
8 Nidus is okay. Prism, which is good.
Swarm mutations under attack. Swarm forces
Drone count,
under
80.
attack. Mineral cluster.
You could probably take a 5th base behind this, but usually sort of timing usually kills them if you get away with the Mutas.
Mineral field exhausted.
Yeah. Okay, so when you go for these Mutas, you really need to get something done with them, right? So getting the Prism is good, but after killing the Prism, you need to immediately go for a probe line or something like at least poke at them.
Under attack.
And you can kind of chill a bit at home with your army here, and just morph Ravagers at home, morph some Banelings at home, and then move across the map. You preferably want to be 200 supply with this. So a macro hatch maybe could be good, just so you can spend your money to Zerglings. And you know, like the Mutas, we made 11 Mutas, which is a bit high if we want to go for this timing afterwards. Normally you go for like 7 or so. It's something you can even do like with these Mutas, you just bring them to the front, try to snipe High Templars. But they're still getting something done, it's just, you probably could have been a bit more active with the Mutas here. Yeah, you can drone to 80. Like, what you did here was, everything was okay, I think. It was just a little bit late with the desaturation, so your army wasn't as big as it should have been earlier on. Like, you probably could have hit this timing like 30 seconds to a minute earlier with slightly better macro.
Swarm forces under attack.
Yeah, now we're kind of transitioning into late game.
Swarm has mineral cluster.
Spreading overlords.
Forces under attack.
Yeah, so you're playing like more of an old school style here with Ravaging Bane into the late game.
Exhausted.
Yeah, in general you want to try to put some pressure here and try to force some trades with multi-prong, try to get some Banelings into the mineral lines. So like in general, you don't really want to go for Bane Rambis just by themselves, right? You want to be doing multi-prong stuff so that the Protoss can pay attention to both sides. But what you're doing here can be okay, since he's just turtling on 4 base.
Swarm forces under
Yeah, so like these kind of run-bys you want to be doing at the same time as something else. We just don't want to send in like 15 Banelings like this, right? You want to be doing this move at the same time as you're like attacking this base, right? Or you poke here at the same time as you send this Baneling run-by in. That's just like a general rule for like every matchup. You want to be doing run-bys and drops and stuff like that whenever something else is happening. Because it's way less attention for you to do the run-by or drop compared to this what it is for the guy who's defending, right? He has to actually micro and pull his workers away and put attention to that area. Yeah. When a Protoss is turtling like this on 4 base, you can always expect them to just go into Sky Toss. So at this point, your own count is okay. I would probably start spamming some spores at this point. At least a few. This run by is good. And yeah, you should have been hitting the left side base at the same time as this probably. Burrow is nice.
Mineral field depleted.
Very important that we stay on top of our upgrades on the Spire. Especially armor.
Swarm
Super important in CVP.
attack. Swarm forces under attack.
Yeah, this is a little bit risky because we're pushing here really without much Corruptor support. So our Brothers can just get targeted down, right? In general, we don't want to be fighting like this until we're ready. The only time we would go for a brutal timing like this is if we think we can hit before they have carriers, right? Alternatively, if you wanted to do an aggressive move like this, you could just go Ravaging Bane Corruptor and try to flank from here. Go with everything, target down the carriers with your Corruptors, and then go back and morph Broodlords, right? But in general, like just attacking like this with Broodlords without anti-air, it's almost always just gonna end in disaster. Wasn't looking too bad up until this point, I think. We wanted to work on our creep, like get more creep spread out, get some spores out, to set us up for a better position in the game. But right now we're not upgrading our air at all. So like once +2 finishes on the air units, it's gonna be very, very hard for you to win a fight, even if you have a lot of Corruptors. But yeah, the run bys have been good.
Under direct assault. Swarm forces attacked.
Yeah, and again, we wanted some spores here, right? If you had like a line of spores, that would have been very useful. Now the problem is actually
Under attack.
he doesn't have that big of an air army, but we don't really have enough to deal with the ground army at this point, since we have so many Corruptors. Unupgraded Corruptors. So it's gonna be really hard for them to do anything. You really need upgrades in the late game layer, especially armor.
Under attack. Drones.
It's good moves with the abducts. But yeah, like a spore line would have been nice right here. Yeah, I actually think you played this game okay overall. Just a bit cleaner early game macro, a bit better creep spread, doing more multi-prong. Like doing run bys is good, but you need to be doing something else at the same time as the run by is happening. Upgrades on air, making spores. And yeah, being more careful when you attack with Broodlords. Like you want to make sure that if you're gonna attack with Broodlords, that you have enough Corruptors to cover them from whatever army they have, right? But yeah, overall, it was okay, I think. Just those things. I think this game was totally winnable. Yeah, I mean, you want both, but the thing is, if you don't have armor, the Corruptors just melt versus Interceptors. You really need the armor to match the attack upgrades on the carriers. Let's see. We have a few more replays. Next one is Fruit Sellers, TVC. Taking unnecessary damage was the comment, so maybe early game. Going for this early 30 in CVT Fruit Seller is only really viable on maps where there is no Reaper jumping spot into the main. So on this map pool, there is no map like that, right? On the last map pool, I think it was only Golden Wall that didn't have a Reaper jump spot. So you need to consider that, because what this build is gonna do is we're gonna have a late second queen, right? So if the Reaper just goes straight into the main base here, means that we won't have a queen. So in general, this build isn't viable in CVT, except for maps where there is no Reaper jump spot into the main. And we miss an Overlord here. So we want to go for okay. If you want to avoid the Reaper block, a better way is to go. You just play your normal opening, and you just hide your drone. Like on either base, whichever base you want to take, just hide the drone. Like over here. And then you just take it on 28 or 30 supply. You can take it on 27 supply, then you can still get it down. Like you start your queens and 4 Zerglings, and you take it at 27 supply, you can still get it down before the Reaper comes. Yeah, because now we cut our queen, and this supply block is hurting us quite bad. Our drone production is quite far behind what it should be here, right? Alright, so in general, we just missed a lot of drones here in the early game, which kind of hurt us. And we're also missing queen production. So in CVT, you always want to have more or less constant queen production until you hit 6 queens at least. So here we would like to start another queen right away. And our queen count is already a bit reduced, right, because of the opener as well. Well, in general, we always go 6 queen as a default. And if we see that we're playing versus a 3cc opener, then we can stick on 6 queens for a while, until after we get our 4th hatch up. But if we're not playing versus a 3cc opener, we need to get a 7th queen and a bailing nest usually.
Perhaps it will even survive.
So in this case, we know it's a 3cc build. Here it's viable to sack this Overlord to get the scouting on the follow-up if you want. It's not needed, but it's viable. But yeah, in general, we would just like a higher queen count here, and a higher drone count as well. And yeah, these spores are a bit early versus a 3cc opener. You can delay your spores until like 4:45, something like that, 4:40 or 4:45. And just put more focus on getting your drones and queen count up in the early game. There we go there. Yeah, so in general we just want slightly better Overlord spread here. So like you would prefer these Overlords that are right here to be spread like this, right? If there's no Viking, you just keep them here. If you see a Viking attacking one of these Overlords, you can pull them back a bit. But in general, we really want vision like this, just so we can be in position with our queens. So if we knew about this, where the Hellions are, our queens should be here. If we see that the Hellions goes towards this side, we move the queens here. If we see the Hellions go up here, then we move the queens here. We just want to be like running the queens back and forth to be in between the Hellions and our bases. So yeah, the queens were essentially out of position here, because ideally you don't want to engage the Hellions with the Zerglings until like you absolutely have to, and preferably you've gotten all those shots in with the queens at that point. So here, at this point, like you know these Hellions are gonna die, like they're dead, but your goal now should just to take as little damage as possible, and make sure that you transition out of it so you come out okay on the other side, right? So making these first 14 Zerglings is probably fine, but after this you should go back into droning, start your 1-1, probably get your 4th hatch, maybe start some more queens. That should be your focus right now, aside from just splitting. So, because you're gonna lose some drones here for sure, it's very important that you don't overmake units here, because then your drone count is gonna be completely alpha, right? So here you want to use the Zerglings. Yeah, now you want to be droning right here, because these Hellions are already dead essentially, right? You're gonna be droning, starting your upgrades, starting your 4th base, starting your queens. So whenever you get Hellion run by like this, like once the Hellions are inside your base, you should just accept the fact that they're dead. And now your goal is just to minimize the damage and make sure that you're gonna come out in as good a position as possible, right? And but how to do that is by droning, starting your upgrades, spending your money. And not overmaking units, that's the important thing. You just want to make enough so you can clear up whatever is in your base. And then go back into droning as fast as possible, start extra queens, start 4th bases, stuff like that. Overall, you didn't make too many units, you just made 4 extra Zerglings, so that was okay. But in general, if our queens were in position, we would have taken a lot less damage here, right? At this point, it might be a good idea to spread some Zerglings out of the map, just so you can see if he moves out with like a marine timing. But since he went with this blue flame attack, you can be pretty sure that his infrastructure is a bit delayed, so there shouldn't be any huge worry about that right now.
Mineral field depleted.
Start rainings. You'd probably want to, yeah, run of drones to the 4th is good here, before you start making units again. Yeah, that's fine. In general, you want to make sure you don't go into Hydras too early when you're playing Lingbane. Just make sure that you have a solid number of Lingbane before you go into Hydra. But looks overall okay this game. Something that could be good is just moving up the spores. So like you could move this one to here or here, move this spore to here. It really helps with dealing with drops. And here we kind of over rotated our units to defend this, right? We bring everything up here. We have lots of stuff here. We don't have enough Banelings pre-morphed. So this is kind of the danger of making Hydras too early, right? You want to make sure that you have like a big enough Lingbane force that you're not scared to fight on creep. Because the Hydras don't really fight that well without the Lingbane support. They're more just like support units, right? So we should be fine. Yeah. Just make sure we have enough Lingbane to always fight on creep. Do we already have +2 armor? No, you should always prioritize armor in CVT. Because Marines have low damage but they shoot very fast. And we're gonna be fighting mostly Marines in this matchup, so always armor. If you wanna go +1 range instead of +2 melee, that's fine. But always prioritize armor over both the other ones. Yeah, we wanna make sure we get overload speed as well. Like as soon as we've stabilized in the early game and we are going into a macro game, we wanna make sure we start overload speed right away. That's a decent fight. Problem right now is our drone count is a bit low. Behind this you would want to start your 5th base, maybe make like another round of like 15 to 20 drones. Yeah, this attack is okay, but yeah, now we need to go back. We don't ever really want to fight without Lingbane here, with just Hydras. So here we just want to regroup.
Your Zerg have bloodied their claws. There are no minerals left to mine from that field.
So let's go back and look at that. I think doing this counterattack is fine. But we need to be ready to pull back. And behind this we should be spreading creep the entire time. It's very important that you're constantly respreading your creep in CVT. And I think going for the kill like this is a little bit ambitious. I think just going straight for the 4th here is probably the best move, and then going back home. But yeah, going for the kill might have been possible after because you had a really good fight here. But I think in general you should just try to focus on respreading your creep, re-droning up to a respectable drone count, get your 5th base going, And if you can deny this base and you get your 5th up, then you're gonna be on 5 bases versus 3, and you're in an amazing position, right? We'll end up getting a decent trade, but we lose a lot more than we should have here, I think. I think this overall this trade ended up being more expensive for us, though we killed the 4th base, so that was good for us. If we didn't kill the 4th base here, it would have been a disastrous fight, actually. But since we lost all our Hydras, the Hydras are units we don't really want to lose too much. So yeah, in general, you would have preferred to be high on a higher drone count right now. 5th base should be up. Yeah, again, I think we're making a bit too many Hydras here. Like, I think in general, you don't ever want to go above like 20 Hydras. When you're playing Hydra Bane, your main army should be putting Bane with some Hydra support. And yeah, now because we didn't get our 5th base, we didn't re-drone, we're gonna struggle here. We have money, but these trades are not good enough to support on this drone count, right? So yeah, we made a bit too many Hydras, we were a bit too eager to fight. If we, after winning the fight at the top, I think moving across the map to put pressure on the 4th base is fine. Though we should be a bit more reserved. And if we get a kill on the 4th base, then we should immediately run away. And in the meantime, behind us, we should be focusing on our creep spread, injects, 5th base. Yeah, just a little bit less Hydra heavy overall, more Ling Bane heavy. Yeah, so in general we're just making Hydras here to spend our money, but overall I think it would be better to just get an extra macro hatch and stay a little bit more Ling Bane heavy. Yeah, now it's looking kind of rough just because our drone count is so low, and yeah, all of this stuff, right? So yeah, let's just go back and look at that fight one last time. So yeah, this fight was really good. We cleaned up everything. So yeah, here you can try to poke in this space. You probably would want something like a Surtling or an Overlord on these spaces just to make sure he doesn't get to take them like this for free, right? But in general, we should disengage as soon as we've... Going down here is probably a bit too deep. We should probably just try to get this base and get out. And if we feel like his army is too big, we can't do it, we just go back. Because already after killing this army, he lost all the momentum in the game, so you can just creep spread for free here. Get your 5th base, yeah, up to 80 drones. And then from there you should be in a really good position. And a big deal is that you don't have +2 armor. So all of these fights are gonna go a lot worse for you than they should once this finishes. So yeah, from here it's pretty rough, right? Because we just didn't do anything behind this. We were kind of all in with that timing. The way we were playing. And yeah, now we just don't have the economy to the run by the base trade attempt is good, but yeah, not having this is so huge, right? It means that your trade's so much worse. To be honest, if you had +2 armor, I think you still would have won this game, no matter what happened. If we if you want to take your 3rd base before you start Ling speed like this, it's a good idea to pull out of gas a bit earlier. So you probably pull out 2 out of gas right here, if your plan is to go for the 3rd base before the Ling speed. Yeah, those were the biggest points in that game. And just, if you win a big fight like that, just make sure you can poke at them, but don't overcommit to any fight. Just make sure you use that momentum or that time that you bought by winning that fight to get your drones up, get your crew spread going again. Those would be the more important things to focus on. Right, so yeah. In general here, just if we want to go for the third before link speed, put out gas earlier. And
our forces are under attack.
Yeah. That's it here. Yeah, so here we mined 160 gas right there we didn't use yet. So these drones could have mined quite a few minerals already right here, if you had them here. So
a new queen's been born. Our base is
it's
under attack.
a fairly big deal. And here we want to start an overlord and a third queen and link speed as soon as we can. Link speed, overlord, queen. Alright. Okay, we scouted. Well, I'm not sure if we scouted it was a 2-on-1. If we realized with this scout.
Looks like this brood's in
But
for
we
a
should
fight.
realize by how late the factor is that it should be 2-on-1, but it can be hard to tell. But in general on this map I think keeping this overlord here is fine. Or just keeping it like up here to send in later. Both are fine.
Brand new. Ready to go. Our forces are under attack.
Yeah, so right now we would like to send a Zergling across the map to scout. I think we just did that by the looks of things.
A new queen. Looks like this brood's in for a fight. Evolution.
Yeah, this looks good. Looks like we know that it's a 2-on-1 at least.
Our forces are under attack.
I kinda like everything you did so far, except these gases. These gases are way too early. It's way more important here that you focus on making queens. In this scenario versus a 2-on-1, you would want to get up to at least 7 queens before the drop hits. If you feel like you're starved on gas a bit here, I would prefer seeing you just get 1 evo for +1 armor initially, and like a bailingness maybe, than to get these extra gases right now to go up to 2-on-1. It's more important that you focus on droning this up and get your queen count higher. So yeah, these gases were too early.
Brand new queen ready to go.
Yeah, so here when the drop hits, we wanna first off, like around here, like right now we want to have 5 queens over here. 5 queens over here, 1 queen here, 1 queen here, and about like 25 Zerglings, something like that. We want to spread some Zerglings around the map just so we see where the medevacs will come. We also want to have Ling right here so we can see if they do this move out or not. And we also want to be poking a bit at the Nashor with a Zergling just to see if they're bringing Hellions with this. But yeah, so in general just better map vision. Is it available to get banelings for the first 2-on-1 attack? I don't recommend it, because if they're micro is good, they're just gonna target those slow banelings. It's better to just rely on Queenling. But if there's Hellbats, obviously you're gonna need banelings. So yeah, this is okay. Like again, I would prefer to have 1 extra queen here, and we already lost a queen as well. So yeah, don't be scared to overmake queens here, especially if you're floating money. Don't be scared to make more queens and pulling these queens to the front. The 2 you have here. Well, they can do a Hellbat timing that hits around the same time that this one does, but then it's just going to be 1 medevac at a time. So that's why we want to be scouting here with Zerglings earlier to check for the Hellions, if there's Hellions with this. the good stuff right here. We want to be droning, creep spreading. Yeah, starting more queens here for sure. And again, yeah, some Zerglings out of the map would be really nice, because if 2 Medivacs were to fly into our main base right now, that would be kind of rough, right? So, just a little bit better map vision overall. We want to make sure we spend our money here, so a macro hatch would be good. Overall, not looking too bad. Economy-wise, we got up 66 drones. I think the biggest thing so far is just map vision. Having links out on the map for map vision. It's very important in this stage. Looks like we're forgetting blading speed, maybe. It's a bit rough, but should still be fine as long as we fight on creep. Yeah, so here we get punished, right, for not having map vision. So we have 1-1 on our Zergling. We have easily enough units if we just have Banelings morphed to fight this. We could have an Overseer morphed as well. Biggest problem is just we had no map vision, right? So again, we want to make sure that we spread some Zerglings out on the map to see these kind of pushes coming, because then you can prepare. You can have Banelings pre-morphed, you can have Overseers ready, you can be ready here with your army, your queens can be here, right? So just better vision in general. And like, if we defend this, we're in a great position, right? Like our 2-2 is ahead, we have much higher drone count, our Spire is almost done. He didn't even land his 3rd base yet, so in general we're in a great position this game. We're just lacking map vision.
Looks like this bird's in for a fight. Johnny Creek Timber under attack here.
That was rough. But yeah, earlier macro hatch would have been good too. Where are our queens right now?
Forces are under attack.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that we're bringing our queens to the front when we're fighting like this. So the queens should have already been down here to defend the 4th base, right? So hotkeying them is very useful. I do separate hotkeys. I have one for inject queens, one for creep queens. But if you just want to have all your queens in one hotkey, that's also fine. But they need to be participating in the fight.
Mineral field depleted.
And yeah, now we're essentially, like, we're lacking a lot of map vision, right? So we need to make sure we restart our creep spread. We're getting up to 5 bases, but we're gonna need more drones if we want to go up to 5 bases here, or 6 bases here. So again, map vision, creep spread. Mura harass is good. Again, just a couple of Zerglings on the map, so you feel safe to drone here. Right now you should be droning while harassing with the mutas and creep spreading.
Enemies attack forces are under attack.
I'm not quite sure. Okay, so we're going lurkers. And again, I've said this before to other people. I always make sure you have an Overseer with your army in CVT. But you know, you never want to make lurkers without... You never want to make lurkers without having the hive upgrades. Let's draw this down a bit. So yeah, never make never make lurkers without hive upgrades.
The drones are coming under fire.
But yeah, now we're up to 80 drones. It's looking okay.
Just depleted a mineral cluster.
Yeah, we just need to make sure that we get our creep spread going again. And yeah, again, we're making lurkers here, but we have hive now, so I
There's
think.
another Zerg mutation.
No, we don't. Yeah, so these lurkers are basically like a Hydra. They're like an invisible Hydra right now, because they don't have the range and burrow speed upgrade. So we need like Morling Bane would be way more useful than these lurkers right now. And yeah, again, we just wanna... Our map vision has been the biggest problem in this game so far. I think if you just had better map vision, you would have won this game super easily, because you would have taken no damage. Your army has always been big enough to fight him. Your drone count has been decent. Your upgrades have been in a good spot. The only problem is we never had it in the map vision, so he can just like show up with like 25 marines here and kill this base, or 25 marines here and kill this base. We need to yeah, like, so his army is right here and we have no idea, right? So yeah, we end up having to take a way worse fight than we did. Like, imagine if we knew that this army was coming. We could have already had a flank set up preemptively, been in position. So this map vision is super important. And you're also making sure we have overseers with our army. It's also super important.
Mutations.
Yeah, we want to make sure a few Vipers here would be really good. For either Blinding Clouds or Parabombs. Now we have Lurker upgrades, so now our army is a bit more formidable. In general, we're a bit too Hydra heavy. Like, in general in CVT, in this point, you don't really need that many Hydras unless he's making a lot of Liberators. So it would be better to just have these Lurkers with Ling Bane and a little bit of Hydra support, like maybe this many Hydras, and the rest Ling Bane Lurker. And then if it goes into like 3 Starport Liberator or something, then you can make more Hydras. But initially you don't need that many Hydras. Yeah, looks like we're still gonna win this game. Yeah. Yeah, so the biggest thing I would say was just no map vision. Making 4 Zerglings here is a bit much, unless you're planning to like put heavy pressure on his third base with Ling Bane. And in general here we wanna get our hatchery on 30, not 28, because that's more efficient.
Successful.
So yeah, in general just start with 2 Zerglings. Unless your goal is to put a lot of pressure onto their third base, then you can make 4 to get it a bit lower.
Forces under attack.
Autobahn.
Newly birthed Queen Swarm forces under attack. Drones under attack.
So in general here we're getting a bit too much gas, I think, and for our drone count, like when you're playing as the 3 hatch player versus a 2 base opener, you want to make sure that you utilize your advantage, which is going to be larva. So because of that you want to focus heavily on minerals, so you can actually spend your larva, right? So here when you see, yeah, cancelling the minions is fine, that's good. You can keep or cancel Ling speed, it doesn't really matter. Getting this is fine. I would probably delay my lair a little bit here. Just make sure that you spend your larva into drones before you start your lair. That's the most important thing, I would say. Because this lair is too late anyways to, like, if you wanted to play Nidus versus Muna, for example, it's already too late. Do any sort of like road speed timing, there's nothing you're looking to hit. So in general, delay this lair and make sure that instead of having this lair you have more drones here, right? So our advantage this game is just to have more drones, more income on minerals. And so we're going to be playing defensive, right, overall. And what happened to our Zerglings here? Okay, we're going to scout to see the spire. So in general here, your reaction should not be to get a Hydrodon. Your reaction here should be to focus even heavier on minerals than you have been already. Or than you should have been already. Like, we have 19 larvae right now. This should preferably all have been drones this entire time. And you should just start extra queens here right away when you realize what's happening. You're gonna need to make some roaches to defend versus Ling pressure, right? But since his third base is not even finished yet, you don't need to worry about taking your fourth base yet. So your goal here should be to just stabilize on 3 bases, making queens, spores, some roaches to defend any Ling pressure that might come. And you can get an infestation pit instead of the Hydrodon. That's better overall. And get like a few infestors out. So yeah. In general here we're just very poor on minerals compared to where we should be, right? Like preferably we would have mined from this space with almost like full saturation this entire time. They use Queen's Overlord spread. Make sure we have roaches at our entrances, so we can stop any potential run bys. And we want to be making a lot of spores in this situation. So luckily he's taking out as well, but he's going +2. So you need to start your fourth base fairly soon, but you would have rather just have this base fully saturated this entire time, right? This base fully saturated. Doing basically the same thing, but the Hydras don't really have a role right here. They're just super expensive and doesn't really do anything for you. So Spore, Queen, Roach. You can add a couple of infestors to deal with like mass baning run-bys. And just taking up the hive, making sure your drone count is good. And then getting your fourth base up. So you want to have spores everywhere basically versus this style. And then you can try to scout here, and the way you would do that is either trying to sneak an overseer around the map or sending speedlings across the map. And what you want to find out is just, is he playing Lingbane Hive, or is he just going like super all in on Lingbane, or is he transitioning into Lurker like this? So as soon as you see him transitioning into Lurker as well, then you can feel that you can take back some map control eventually. You don't need to play as defensively if he's transitioning into Lurker. Yeah, so overall right here, like our economy has just been very, very poor this game. And we're gonna lose our fourth base. So now we're playing from quite far behind. Our only advantage really is that we have faster +2. But we won't have a timing where we can utilize that advantage. So yeah, again here, Hydras don't really do much for us at all. We want to be playing Roach Queen, Infestor, into Hive, or Roach Queen Lurker. Either one is fine. More spores, more drones. Try to scout a bit. So like as soon as we realize that it's going into Lurker, then we can start to posture a bit on the map, right? And whenever we get to Hive, we want to make sure we start a couple of Vipers right away. For Parabomb, but also if they go into Lurkers, we want to have Vipers of our own, right? So now like he's setting up for a proper late game army here, right? With Lurker, Viper, Hydra. And we need to be doing the same thing. But because of the way this game went with early game and our economy, we're just playing from quite far behind now. We still have a slight upgrade advantage, but at this point we're so far behind in economy, and our army is actually worse than his when it should be better, right? Because he has Vipers in his army. He has earlier Lurker upgrades. And we don't have map vision, right? So especially since we don't have any Vipers, once these Lurkers get into position somewhere, we can just never deal with them, right? So when do I decide to make the Hydrodon? You can make the Hydrodon just before you make your Hive, so you can make your Lurker then with the Lurker upgrades right away when your Hive finishes, right? But you don't really need the Hydrodon to make Hydras. Your Hydrodon is just what you need, so you can start your Lurker then and Lurker then upgrades on time. And yeah, you should rely way more on spores to defend the mutas, spores and queens. And yeah, Viper's always right away when you have your hive. Yeah. Yeah, and to be honest, in this scenario, when like he's doing this like so slow siege over here, you should already be expanding to these bases up here. Because the only way you win this is if you like somehow hold here, and then you get up to 5 bases again behind this, right? But now you're in a position where you're just surviving, and you have no win condition, right? Because even if you somehow survive this, it's still gonna be 5 base versus 3. So we actually don't have a win condition here. And he goes back, which is probably the correct move here. Go back and wait for more Viper energy, wait for upgrades. And our position isn't really getting any better. So here we're getting into a weird, like almost base trade scenario, which is probably the best we can do considering the situation we were in. If you had some lurkers at home, that would be amazing right now. But as soon as you're here and you see his army here, you need to realize that you're in a base trade scenario, right? So now you need to get your lurkers into a crucial position. So you want to be able to cut him off from defending himself, right? So as soon as you see that his army is here, your lurkers should go directly here. So you cut him off from his main. Now he gets time to bring his lurkers home, and now you're base trading, but he has lurkers at home and you don't. So this army will kill everything you have, but because he brought the lurkers back home, you can't really kill him, right? So now he just wins the game from here. Yeah, like you did some good moves here to kill this army, but the thing is that he's been mining this entire time, right? And you haven't really been mining. So you're doing some decent moves here to try to stay in the game, but he just has too much money at this point, right? And he doesn't need to go in to take this fight as well. He could just keep expanding to the rest of the map with the money he has. Yeah, we're pretty dead here. Yeah, so in general, just better droning in the early game, faster saturation on your bases. Don't make Hydras Queen Spore into Hive. So way faster Hive. And get Vipers, get Lurkers, and then once you have Hydra Lurker Viper, then you can... Once you have Hydra Lurker Viper, you stay defensive until you know what he's doing, right? So if you see him doing anything else than Lurker himself, then you just stay defensive, keep making spores, keep taking one base at a time. If you see him going into the same composition as you, then you're free to start being active on the map again. To try to take map control, respread some overlords for vision, clear his vision, stuff like that. Because Lurker versus Lurker is a positional game, right? So you can't be purely defensive. And that's you need to establish some map control. And yeah, that's right. Diamond 2 needs to work on early game pendulum. Let's look at this. This was CBT. Everything looks fine. Don't overreact, which is very good. Keep making drones, very nice. Yeah, so here we just started bringing speed a bit earlier. Or like I talked about in the last game, if your initial plan, like obviously this game got a bit messy because of this bunker, right? But if your initial plan is to get your third base down before starting speed, you would want to pull out at around like 60, 70 gas, something like that. You would pull 2 out of gas and then get the third and then start link speed. In this case, you can just start link speed right away here, since you already mined the gas, and then pull out of gas. Micro keep our drones alive, that's good. Just in general, we don't want to try to get this third base down all behind us when this is going on. Yeah, now we want to start an Overlord and one more Queen. And general rule for CVT is to always go Creep Tumor first in the natural to get it out, because you want to get your creep speed going a bit before the Hellions show up, right? And if you go double inject, you won't really have the money to spend all your larva when both the injects finish anyways. We overmake it overlords a little bit here. And in general, making blind Zerglings like this is a bad habit. In general, you don't want to make Zerglings unless you know that you're gonna have a use for them. So in this case, the Zerglings is to prevent any sort of like 2 Hellion run by, right? But this guy could be going 2-on-1, right? For all we know. And then we don't want the Zerglings, then we just want drones. So in the early game, it's very important that you prioritize getting your drones up and queens. So here we want to be starting our queens right away, especially when our third hatch got a bit delayed like this. Since we didn't start right away, you want to make sure that you start these queens as soon as possible. So preferably here, like at this timing, you would start 2 more queens. And here you can see what I meant about the double inject, right? Where you have 4 larvae that you can't really spend because you don't have any money. Especially with what happened to you, like you mine too much gas and stuff like that as well. So yeah, 2 more first in the natural. And now you would want to start 2 more queens here. At this timing. The Link Scout is good, it's gonna give you some information. Again, we're making even more Zerglings blindly here. Like so far we only saw 1 Reaper and we made 11 Zerglings, which is a bit much. So like, again, if we were playing like versus 2-on-1. This is not Mr. Potato. Yeah, wrong stream. Maybe we'll play some games on Mr. Potato later. Alright, we're making more queens, which is good. And in general here we just want some information from his natural, right? We want to check, does he have Hellions? Is he going 2-on-1? What's the supply depot timing? Is he going 3cc or 2cc build? So yeah, here, by seeing this, you can be pretty sure that it's a 2cc build. It was a 3cc build actually, I'm not sure why the supplies are so early. So this is just a mistake by him actually. Because like he's gonna get so much supply here, right? If they open 3cc, they don't need to start this supply depot until the supply depot should start right now if they're opening 3cc. Because like look at how much supply he has, right? So this supply depot is just a mistake by him. But yeah, in general, we made a bit too many Zerglings here blindly, I think. But it's fine, we're going up to a decent queen count, we're droning. Training list. Yeah, we just want to make sure we spend our larvae in the early game. Like you want to be making drones as fast as you can. Like whenever you have larvae for it, you should be spending them into drones in the early game. And again, maybe we overmade Zerglings a little bit again. He only has 5 Hellions, we have 20 Zerglings, it's a bit much. It's much better to just have Overlord spread like this. Especially when there's no Viking. Having some Overlord spread around the map. And just having your queens in good position and having a slightly lower link count is what we want here. Some better injects would be nice. 4 touch. So in any situation in the early game, like once you get to like 5 minutes here, like if you're at this timing and you're floating money, just always start your 4 touch right away. There's no reason not to. Same, you can just get a macro hatch, double evo. You could even make extra queens here in this scenario, you just need to spend your money. But the priorities is to spend your money on drones and queens. Up until you get to like 7. So you already have 7 queens, so now the priority is just drones, evolution chambers and hatcheries, right? Drones always being the first. My crash is good. Yeah, so just in general we're just floating too much money, right? So anything you can do to spend it. More queens, more hatcheries. Nice, looks like you're winning this game pretty hard right now. Yeah, you also want to make sure that you have your queens towards the front as well to help tank when you take this fight. Also, always make sure you have an overseer in your army. Yeah, you do actually, yeah. It was just a bit out of position. That's good. And yeah, like in this scenario, like if you're ever floating money like this, just take another base, get another macro hatch, and work on your injects. Because, yeah, like this game, if you could just spend your money right here, the game would be completely over, right? Like you're already ahead in supply while floating this much money, so if you could just spend your money, then you would win this game super hard. How many queens do I recommend? In CBT, I think it's actually just the more the better. But for the early game, you need 6 if you're playing which is 3cc, 7 versus non-3cc, and then you can just add on. This is 3.5k. Yeah. So in a scenario like this, where they're rally pushing you, it's really nice to just grab like 20 Zerglings and send them around like this and come in between their base and your fight, right? Because you're gonna get to cut off these reinforcements for free. And then after that you can choose to either counterattack here or bring the army to flank from behind. That's really nice. Because he gets to just walk these units across the map like this for free, right? So just letting counterattack to cut off reinforcements and then using them to either counterattack or flank. It's a good move. Yeah. So yeah, overall we would have want a 5th base a bit earlier here. If our 5th base was already up and running and we were like on 10 to 15 more drones, this game would have looked super over. And that's something we could have done, right? Like we were floating money this entire time. So if this was a hatchery plus 15 drones, then we would have just been super far ahead this entire time, right? And yeah, super important that you actually use your queens that you make to respread creep here. Yeah, you're doing it around, it's good. But they're also good to just stand in the front to help tank and like focus on medivacs and stuff like that. And we're over making Hydras a bit. So in general, like you never want to go over 20 Hydras, I would say. Always make sure you have enough Lingbane, and then the Hydras is the support unit, right? So focus on Lingbane and have some Hydras mixed in. But yeah, now it's looking really, really good for you. Yeah, let's rebuild the last fight.